Right. Evening, everyone. I hope everyone is well. So we've got the exam set up per slide. I hope, beyond hope, that I did not mess this up. So please just make sure that I'm not being an idiot. Somebody please track. So I've not shared the slides because I'm pretty sure that at some point I have messed up. So hopefully these make sense. So to go through them very quickly, and again, the rule in terms of any of my stuff is always trust my slides, trust my slides. I think that's rule one. Anyone who knows my rules will know that that's the key role or key rule. So when we go through these, so we had decided to do we had decided to do the first one. I just now want to make sure that I've not messed up with this. I think I have messed up with it again. So hold on. Let me just try and find where the first question is. Please help Morgan in, guys. Okay, so let's have a glance at this. Influencing tactics in 2025 and beyond. And the reason I included this was because I just had seen how the world had changed, and we had seen in terms of what the culture of bullying is about when you look at America and Trump and people around that kind of hemisphere. So when we look at influencing tactics over here, oh gosh, I better just close each of these slides because otherwise it's going to be a mess. You can see this is hot off the presses. Right. So when we look at influencing, I think when we think of the definition of leadership, one of the key components of any definition of leadership is influencing. So we need to look at each of these. And again, I will accept any of these unless they're just completely ridiculous. So just have a glance at this. So rational persuasion, it's facts, numbers, and stats. It's sharing. It's almost educating somebody in terms of why they need to do this. Appraising, I think this is often letting people know that there is something in this for you, that this is a quid pro quo type scenario. Inspirational appeals, I think it's often about, and some of you will have heard this term before, the Protestant work ethic. It's almost like based around morals and values, and it's the right thing to do, and this is your job, and you're here to make a difference. Consultation is very simple, and I think a lot of people quite like the idea of consultation, although most people get it wrong. But consultation is essentially trying to arrive not at a consensus decision, but trying to accommodate the ideas from other people. An exchange, yeah, it's again quid pro quo, but here it is up front. You do this, you achieve this, there is the bonus that will follow. So personal appeals, I think it's based on friendship. And again, I'm a little bit uncomfortable with this. It's, when you say to someone, come on, if you don't do it, I'm in trouble and we mates in this. Here, I hate this, but it's praising a colleague. And you guys, and it's, the term is obsequious behavior. It's almost obsequious in the sense that you keep telling somebody how fantastic they are, and this is the kind of stuff that Trump wants. So when Keir Starmer went from the UK, and obviously this false, and again I'm going to use the term obsequious behavior. It is really, really embarrassing. Yeah, this one, and this is my favorite a few years ago, and I'm sure I shared this story with you already. We had somebody who had used a paraphrasing tool not really well. And in this paraphrasing tool, they had described literature review as academic architecture or something like that. It was so bad. And I kept refusing to mark it. And Alison kept sending me the policy, and the more she sent me the policy, I told her that I was refusing to market. So this is the kind of stuff that a lot of people get irritated about. Yeah, coercive approach, stop your nonsense, or else your parents' approach, hopefully not, or coalition, where you build a group of individuals to try and solicit some sort of pressure on another person. Any questions, any comments in terms of that one? Everyone okay with that? Right, let's move on to question 2. So no dramas there. Yeah, 6 attributes of leading change. And again, guys, you can have a glance at that. So question 2, I said it's page 141. And then, yeah, the attributes. So the first one is creativity. And I think part of creativity is the ability to look at things from a variety of angles. It's to hold something up to the light and see the nuances in terms of the kind of um, change we need to make and what the change needs to achieve. The second one is you have to have everyone on board. And if you don't have the collective on your side, change will never happen. Wonderful listening skills in the sense that I think really good ideas come from those individuals who encounter the problems that the change is about to affect. Coaching skills, again, very much giving your point of view, guiding, assisting, and then also making sure that if things go wrong, you are to blame. And a lot of people don't realize that. But it's this, to me, is this the last one. I think it's a team effort, it's a collective effort, and that appreciation has to be built in. The third one, yeah, value of using the current interests of critical management studies. So again, I've got it right. Please tell me if anything here is wrong, okay? So in critical management studies, I think it's this idea of challenging what we had learned over the last 100 years around management, the kind of stuff that dominate textbooks around what managers are in relation to followers, the roles of managers. So the kinds of things that we need to realize is that everything needs to be questioned. So in terms of the terrain, I think the first one is this idea that there is this existing social order, that managers are in charge and employees will park their brains at the door because we don't expect them to use it during the day. But at night, we expect them to use it because they have to be an effective member of the community, etc. The second one is that there is this belief that when people work for organizations, that you automatically identify with the vision and everything aligned with that vision, and that you're there because of being attracted by the organization's values. And I think we try to believe that there is this shared interest and consensus, but I think it's not really always the case. And then the importance of communicative action. And we always talk about the role of a CEO. Clem Sunter, when he was chairperson of Anglo American Gold, and you guys can go and see who Clem Sunter is, a hell of an impressive person. He saw his job as chairperson of American Gold as two things. The first one was to create a vision. The second one was to communicate the vision. He referred to it as managing by wandering around. And it's part of communication. It's part of sharing the vision. It's part of getting everyone on the same page. So that's question 2, case study 2. What am I saying? I think so, Georgia Jade. I think you need to have that balance, and we'll look at the case studies, but there has to be a real balance between your theoretical component, and obviously we are slightly weighted in favor of the application, but it's that ability to blend the bits and pieces. So, one of the questions you'll see I've changed, one of the case studies I've changed, because yeah, there's some issue with it, and I'll discuss it when I get there. But I think go and get a bit of extra information. Um, there's a lot of information in the textbook and in here, but it really depends on how well you want to do. But the textbook and my slides are pretty good, hey? Right. The Sorry about this. Right, so going to question 2, or I've called it just case study 2. So it's this idea of workplace well-being. To go through it, the actual questions don't go further than they should. Okay, so the first one, Gardner's conceptual model. You'll see I've done this as well. So you'll see I've said case study 2. Please just give me a case study 2, and then question 1, pages 16, 158 to 160, but you can see that. So we've spoken about authentic leadership. It's this alignment between who you really are and your behaviors. It is the idea of not wearing a mask, of not presenting a facade to the world. And I think often it is about your integrity and sharing that kind of integrity through your actions. So when we think of the kinds of things that an authentic leader does, and we remember we would have discussed how this aligns with emotional intelligence, a clear self-awareness in terms of your values, who you are, your emotions, controlling those emotions, reading those emotions. And then aligned with that is the self-regulation, in that you essentially realize that flying off the handle is not an excuse because you control your behaviors. It is listening to facts. It is accepting that new information that come into your learning framework, into your brain, essentially are there, and it is the ability to change your old conceptual models. And remember, that's what balanced processing is. It is honesty and decency in relationships, and it's walking the talk. It is not wearing a mask. Always there's this thing that people are perfect twice in their lives. Once when they go to church, and secondly when they go to interviews. And I think for me that's artificial anyway. The second question there. Sorry, you guys need to interrupt me. Okay, and then significance of listening. Yeah, I love this idea. And sorry, I'm just going to have a swig of my my cappuccino here. And it's this idea that one of the key things that makes a leader a great leader is their ability to listen. And I think when you respect somebody, when somebody has status in your mind, when there's the sense that you can identify with this individual, and yes, obviously charismatic leaders are part of that, but the kind of person that you have this kind of ability to acknowledge as somebody who you would follow, then listening and speaking to that person and having that person listen to you is significant. I love this term. It's the extraordinarization of the mundane. Guys, I can tell you now, those of Neil is proper cappuccino here. This is the one that keeps you awake. Oh gosh, this is going to be an exam prep, and you guys are going to go listen to this idiot talk about cappuccino. Um, so this extraordinarization of the mundane, I think those of you that are in management positions, um, and I think Neil, you're in quite a senior position. Most people are so busy that when they interact with people, when they interact with staff, when they interact with members of their organization, it is often brief. And you don't have time to have lengthy discussions. And the importance of this is in that brief moment of connecting, it is active listening. It is showing that you're interested. And I think it's the idea that you you have this significance because first of all, you're in a leadership position, and spending time understanding, I think, is a significant part of leadership. Right. And then question 3 pages are there. If any of these pages are wrong, please tell me so we can update it, but you guys can update it yourselves as well. Sorry, another cappuccino moment. Please remember all of these moments when you evaluate me. Talks about cappuccino and listens. We have to listen to him drink cappuccino. Right. So question 3. Okay, guys, and then moral leadership. Yeah, and it's this the idea of creating an organization that cares. And again, normally we would have interactions about who works for an organization that cares, and we don't have time for that tonight. But generally, when we ask the question, what is a leader? We generally really asking what is a good leader. And when we think of what goodness is, it's those two things. It is the morality of the individual, and it's the morals that that individual displays, but it also the ability to impact people in an organization, to make a difference, to contribute to the vision. So when we think of what, and do I need this one? No, I'm taking the slide out. My apologies. So in terms of what we mean by a moral person, I think it really is understanding the 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 realities of society and what is accepted and not accepted within society, and bringing it into an organization where you create a culture where people understand that the expectation is of us is to do good, is to be decent. And I think it's about making sure that we influence people in terms of ethicality. I spoke about this multiple times, that we have this crisis of ethics. And in terms of this crisis of ethics, we sit in situations where people get away with murder. And it's almost, in certain instances, people can never steal enough to actually go to prison or not to be redeployed. So when we think of moral persons, moral managers, you can see the kinds of things that we see increased workplace effort. Organizational citizenship, guys, is the stuff that you do that is not as part of your job description, but it's part of the psychological contract. Remember, in any organization, you have a contract that essentially indicates your salary and your benefits, etc. The psychological contract is the bigger picture in terms of the emotions, in terms of having this long-term relationship, but also in terms of citizenship behavior. It is stepping in when other people are struggling, and understanding and supporting the organization and promoting the organization. And yeah, what we hope is that, and and in reality, I'm not going to pick on any party or any politicos tonight, but that term worries me immensely sometimes when I listen to our politicians talk. Guys, and you can see there, it is about how our actions and behaviors impact broader society. And it really is about promoting decency and goodness in an organization. Right. Right. Finally, the value of moral leadership. Let's look at question 3. So this would be case study 3 in terms of what I have there. And oh my goodness me, what idiot put so many case studies in one? It's me. Don't worry, I'm the developer. So here we look at Patel as transformational leader. And let's just hope that I didn't mess this up. Again, page 116. And there is the transformational leadership. I think it is our ability through our actions, through our behaviors, through our personality to engender this relationship based on admiration, based on trust, based on loyalty. And often these transformational leaders, and we've spoken about Nelson Mandela as a transformational leader, takes on an aura of their own. These are the kind of individuals that we want to support. They are able to motivate people beyond what people would have thought they could achieve. So in terms of a transformational leader, there are two things. I think we've spoken about the need for an adaptive organization, those kinds of organizations that are light on their feet, that can essentially adjust very rapidly to remain relevant in terms of the external environment. The second one is these people are able to create a vision. And we now know the wonderful "I have a dream" speech, and I default to that. But Mandela had his own version for South Africa. Mbeki had his own version for South Africa. So in terms of the kinds of things that we see in transformational leadership, idealized behaviors, remember, this is when we think of Mandela, went to prison for 27 years, came out of prison and decided to forgive people. The second one is they create a vision. Getting Francois Pienaar with not the best team around him to win the Rugby World Cup in 1995. They also get people to question previous assumptions, and often, and again, I always talk about that wonderful movie Invictus, where he gets the leader of his guards to appoint previous security policemen who, if they had seen Mandela on the road the day before or prior to him becoming president, they would have had to arrest him. And then also individualized consideration, where people spend time, that extraordinarization of events. And then also idealized attributes. We know that Mandela didn't just become the leader of the country, he became a global figure that represented goodness and decency. The second question there. Okay, 6 practices common to. So we'll go here. Right, those are the 6 practices. Yeah, I think in terms of the kinds of things we expect from strategic leaders, the first one, it is the ability to speak forms of knowledge. And I think it's that ability to look at organizations from different perspectives, to have a sense of different best practice options, who are able to share these best practice options. The second one is that they're there to watch human interaction and promote and step in when there is conflict, that they understand there are rules of decency from a protocol perspective. Question and query everything. And again, it aligns so wonderfully with that critical leadership. These are individuals that don't accept things at face value, that don't believe in the status quo, that don't believe that what happened yesterday should be our definition of what would happen in the future. Appropriate emotions, and again, that emotional intelligence, recognize your own emotions, controlling those emotions. These are people who share stories and metaphors about what an organization can be, who will share metaphors around, the idea of what an organization potentially could become based on their vision. And it is not forgetting the importance of history. The past is a good predictor of the future. And remember, things like resilience, and in the past where an organization's been knocked down and stood up, those are the kinds of historical things that we put to work. Right, question 3. Development process. Yeah, so we spoke about this leadership development. Remember, leader development, what we do in terms of individual leaders. Leadership development, it is a process within an organization where we make sure that we have the right leaders in the future at the right time with the right competencies in the right place. So when we think of leadership development, we know that it is always going to be based on a needs analysis. So what are the deficiencies? Where are the gaps? Where do we have to train people? And it is part of succession planning. And then individual development planning, where we look at how we fill in the missing gaps in terms of a person's competency profile. And then checking that this person's on track in terms of when we need that individual to step into the leadership position, they are the perfect package. I just want to make sure that I didn't mess the development process. Why did I put this in? Guys, yeah, maybe just talk about this as well. Just talk about, in terms of what we can do as part of that process, okay? In terms of sharing skills, sharing competencies. Case study 4. Now, I know this is the one I said we're going to leave out, but the other class that I teach suggested this one to be easier. And when I looked at it, I really believe it is easier because we already have some of the questions that we studied, so we don't have to study a whole new set of questions. And on top of that, the servant leadership, I had to go find outside this textbook because the textbook refers to it, but doesn't make any proper bit of writing around it. So my apologies for changing 5 to 4, and I'll explain why this is easier than the other one. Please, and if you still want to do 5, please do 5, but I would spot 5 out. So we've done transformational leadership. You have got, oh my gosh, what am I doing? So we've done transformational leadership. So case study 4, and you'll see I've put it in. There's transformational leadership as well. And then strategic leadership. Remember, strategic leadership is that combination between a strategic manager and a visionary. And when we think of what visionaries do, is they give us direction. They give us a sense of purpose around the future. And what the managers do is they create the mechanisms for an organization to move forward. And remember, strategic leaders are a combination of those. So these are individuals that can see the organization in relation to the environment and adjust the organization to essentially remain aligned with the environment. And it's that kind of being light on an organization's feet again. So it is about the idea of looking at the environment, creating an ideal vision, that ambitious future an organization sees for itself. It is about being mentally very flexible in the sense that you don't get stuck on the past, that you question your mindsets all the time. And I think it is about the inspiration that you give to others in terms of being excited about an organization's vision. And we can see to be operating what we need to do. And generally, it's all about checking the environment, being able to read the environment, and discerning elements in the environment that other people might not see, creating a vision, creating an organization that aligns itself with that vision. And you can have a glance at that one as well, guys. And then question 3. Yeah. And the reason I've left and changed it from 5 to 4 is because I thought, oh, we want to stay away from critical studies. But that is the essence of critical leadership and management studies. It is the essence of everything that we need to question. So the stuff that we need to question from a critical leadership perspective will always be that kind of difference between managers and followers, the idea that managers do the thinking, followers do the working, and that divide that naturally exists. So the kinds of things that we want to challenge, the first one is this idea that only one leader can lead, and we've got this powerful leader that we follow. It's very similar, I suppose, than sheep do a leader. Romanticism, and it's this idea that leaders hold this privileged position over followers. And the truth is, followers are so important. We live and work in a knowledge society, and it's essential that followers are able to make a contribution. Otherwise, they leave. And then this idea of leader versus follower. And I think the truth is, in modern organizations where you have leadership, team leadership that rotates, it is not as clear cut in terms of a leader influencing. It is also influencing. It's also a leader being influenced. And then, guys, I've left out 5 then. My apologies for making that change without checking with you. If you still want to do 5, you've got where it is. I would leave 5 out. My apologies to do that. Okay, I didn't like the question. Neither did I like the case study, to be honest with you. I was a little bit irritated with politicians, to be honest. So, and then question 6, possibly my favorite one. Now, not that Lewis is with Ferrari, with Mercedes anymore, but you just have to think a year back. If you know anything about Formula One, and my apologies for throwing Formula One into this. AMG Petronas as a high performance team. Yes, I know they're not that anymore, but look at the case study. So in terms of a high performance team, these are teams that essentially have a common purpose, that have complementary skills and start setting incredibly high standards for themselves. So I would definitely elaborate on this. Obviously, so critical conditions in terms of that, there is this recognized performance need. It is this realization that we are here to win. And for the organization to win, we need to win. So it's this notion of essentially within the team creating this competitive ability and making a difference ability. And it's personal commitment. So you commit yourself to the purpose as well as to your role. And it's mutual accountability, where you essentially are mutually accountable. Each of the team will take the blame when this team effort doesn't work. And it's about shared trust. And we've discussed how we have this crisis of trust and how few people we trust. And it's this ability to make sure that we believe in each other and our ability to make a contribution. When we think of rugby, is everyone doesn't run for the same, towards the same guy to tackle him, because we trust the guy next to us will tackle him. And it's clear leadership roles. And we know that those leadership roles nowadays will rotate within these teams. Question 2. Person, process. Yeah. So person is generally about the traits of the individual, the characteristics, and what we expect from an individual. Process is how we go about essentially leading, and this idea that your behaviors will determine how what the outcome is. And your position, and it really often is about in a hierarchical position, you have certain controls, and you also are given the opportunity to exercise those controls. And then we did mindfulness. I'm not going to go through that one again. You guys have enough information. You'll see that I didn't put the page numbers in here because this is more than sufficient to attend to it. But remember, it's about being in the moment. It's about being able to set aside the noise and focus on what is important. Right. And that, oh golly, ladies and gentlemen, is us in terms of the exam. Please have a glance at these rubrics and what we expect, but it is that wonderful balance between theory. Please give me theory and go find the application. Please do me a favor and work this out prior to the exam. Please do not leave it until the exam and think you'll study the theory and you'll find examples in the theory. There's a lot to write in a period of 2 hours. And remember, in your mind, when you get there, know which ones you're going to leave out. So if the spot one comes in, you know you're not going to do it. If there are 3, do the ones that you feel strongly about. Other than that, guys, I just want to say thank you for the semester. Now, for us, the semester is not really over because we still have rebs, etc. But thank you so much for making my life easy. I will share the IBMA exam prep with you. I do not want to tread on the other lecturers' toes. Let me stop talking now. Let me stop recording, sorry.